Queen, you are more than magic, natural, radiant, melanated, and proud. You are more than enough. You are wonder, you are light, you are the beginning of time and time itself. The universe is in awe of you. Honeybees collect the finest nectar just to bless your skin. Put your best face forward. Manifest your glow up. Claim what's already yours.
Hello, everyone. I wish we could be all together in person, but I wanted to say a few words before our next panel. I'm Kara Sabin, CEO of Sundial Brands and proud partner of Macro. And it's hard to believe that our partnership started 5 years ago when Charles King and our founder, Richelieu Dennis, came together and decided they really wanted to create a space for Black creators and Black innovators. And at SheaMoisture, we not only center Black men and women in the products that we develop, but in how we show up in service of our community. So I'm so thrilled to continue our partnership with Macro, and it is my honor to introduce our next panel with the incredible and vibrant Nikyatu Jusu, writer and director of the film Nanny.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Stacey King. I'm Chief Brand Officer at Macro, and I could not be more excited about the conversation that we are about to have. It's around the film Nanny. I just watched it. I have all the feels, and I cannot wait to have this conversation with the brilliant writer-director, Nikyatu Jusu, and with the cast members, Anna Diop and Sinqua Walls. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
I love the applause break. It doesn't happen in every panel, but So I just want to say, first of all, congratulations on this film. It is beautiful. It's riveting. It is, kind of called a supernatural horror film. We'll get to that in a second because I have feelings about that. But like I said, I watched it, and you really don't leave this film unchanged. You really don't. So Nikyatu, I want to start with you. Can you tell us a bit about, the journey of this film? It was on the 2020 Blacklist, and now all the way here we are today. So can you just tell us a little bit about the journey to get here?
You know what, Stacey? I'm learning the language of talking about this film. We literally just turned over the full cut to Sundance on Friday, this past Friday. So I'm picking up my baby legs of articulating this process, even though I'm literally still processing this process. But over the course of around 7 or 8 years, I started and stopped the writing process of writing this film. I thought it was too specific. I abandoned it for other projects. And then we started picking up traction. And by we, I mean myself and my producing partner, Nakia Multeri, who really nudged me to finish the script. And it is loosely based on my mother. She has had many jobs. She's an artist. She self-published a novel. She owned a business, but she did a lot of domestic work. And I'm first generation American. My family's from Sierra Leone, West Africa. And my mother did a lot of domestic work growing up. But I didn't want to tell a straightforward drama about her life. I wanted to write kind of a dark love letter to mothers, to immigrant mothers, to Black American mothers, to marginalized mothers. And so I incorporated some West African folklore in order to tell this story. And here we are now, about 8-ish years later, with a finished film that people are about to see.
I love that. I love that. I read that you had said this was, the story and the characters that you just could not shake. So if you can sort of talk a little bit about that it was something about you, kind of setting it aside, but it just, these characters and the story is calling to you.
Yeah, I mean, these are people I know. Every single character in this film was painted with a very loving brush because I know these people. I know Malik, I know Aisha, I know Miss Kathleen, I know all of these people. I know many Amy's. And so these are renditions of people I've encountered in real life. And so, every time you maneuver certain spaces, you're reminded of these characters who you're nurturing and creating on the page. And so, because I know these people in real life, it was hard to ignore the fact that this story needed to be seen through to the finish line.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right. I love that. I love also that you talk about, because it's one of the things that I'm going to want to get into this with Anna and Sinqua too. But, when I was watching it, I for sure was thinking this feels like people that either I know or people that I've encountered. There's this thing about them, but then there's also this part where it's people that you're interacting with and you're close with, but you don't really know about what's going on in their lives beyond what you're encountering.
Right.
So I, specifically want to throw this question to you, Anna, as you're playing Aisha, who, we see her, the way she is interacting with, the family that she nannies for. But then also what I loved in the beginning of this movie is seeing like her life outside of that. And we're getting sort of that picture and that struggle. How did you draw upon, I guess your own life, or how did you draw upon your own experiences in showing that dichotomy of this character?
Well, similarly to Nikyatu, my mother too was a domestic worker, a nanny for 24 years. She retired last year, and we moved to the States when I was 6. And as far as I can remember, she's been taking care of other children and working with these other families. And I would visit her sometimes at work. Even up until a couple of years ago, I went to the house of the family she was working with, and she's one way there. She's my mother's a very kind, loving, sweet, gentle woman, always, but she can't fully be herself in those spaces. And then seeing her then interact with our aunts and our family friends and stuff, and talking about work life and then seeing her back in Senegal and interacting there is a duality there between the face that you have to show when you're in these spaces that aren't yours, and you're in these jobs, and your own personal life that's very full and rich, and that they know not very much about. I remember the family that she last worked for got her like a what's that soda thing? It makes like carbonated soda thing. And I was like, wow, they know nothing about my mom. She does not, she will never, she has not used it once, right? And so, yeah, I think it's very interesting when we see these women in these spaces that have their own lives and cultures and beingness that the people they're working for have nothing, they know nothing about. So I find that very fascinating. And yeah, and we see some of that when Aisha's with Saleh, her friend, in the braiding shop, and she's like, "These people have me working day and night, and like, do they pay me?" And like, yada yada. But when she's at work, she's professional and shows up with a smile plastered on her face and does what she needs to do, because she does what she needs to do. So
yes, no, I loved it. There's also this thing as I was watching the movie and how just in the way it was shot, that in the beginning when it's showing Aisha and it's showing her life and it's vibrant. I mean, she is, coming, she's just a lightness around her, down from her clothes, her apartment, like all these things you're seeing. And then, not that I'm going to give anything away, but it starts, a transformation starts to happen. And I see that not just in, there's a physical transformation that you do in this, Anna, where, I mean, listen, you're like absolutely gorgeous. So it's not like that happens, but she's, she just becomes contained, I'll just say. And I wanted to see if you could just talk a little bit about, sort of that process for you in, as the film goes on.
Oof. Yes. Thank you so much for saying that. That's so lovely. I did feel too that Aisha does have a light to her, and she is a kind person, a loving person, a good friend, an incredible mother. And so, yeah, I'm glad that resonated and came through. And she is, though, still someone in pain. You know, she's had to leave her son behind, and everything she does is to bring him back, and she's very grounded in that objective. But it's very difficult for her still, but she still maintains a light and a joy and a focus and a clarity and a groundedness. And as the film progresses, we see that being challenged. And I don't want to give away too much either, but you know, she gets, I mean, she's getting thrown incredible punches, right? She's getting thrown phenomenal obstacles and things she herself can't even decipher if she's just exhausted and losing her mind, or you know, I don't want to say too much. I get really nervous. But yeah, I our whole team was very cognizant of the trajectory of Aisha, and down to the wardrobe. Charlize Antoinette was our costume designer, and she was brilliant. We were very specific about showing physically Aisha's not deterioration, but trajectory into darker spaces and more mentally challenging spaces. And I, of course, tried to bring that as much as I could too.
Yes.
But yeah.
You did it. Let me tell you, this is the hardest part about doing these panels, is that I want to separate it from, like, let's have the real ones who've seen the film. Let's have that conversation.
Yeah.
But no, Sinqua, I want to just talk about your character, Malik. You know, like I said, when I came into this, it's like, it's going to be this horror film, this thing. And so when I'm seeing him, I'm like, please let this man be good. And then the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like biting my fingernails of like, oh, what is it going to happen? So, but no, I love that. And I'm not going to say what happens with him, but I will just say this, that he becomes this like grounding and emotional support for Aisha in the film. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to see on screen, and to see just how you know, kind of work that. And I think also, just from his position, he's also someone that, you know, it's kind of set, at least I took it away, that is someone that you see just like, you know, kind of coming and going. He works in this building, and it's like, what, you know, how many times have we seen a person working a door or working to whatever, and you're just like, hey, hi, that kind of thing. I wanted to know what, you know, just how you wanted to portray him, what was important to show about him. I love, there's a beautiful relationship there with him and the grandmother, who's played by Leslie Uggams. So I just wanted to know, kind of from your side, what was important for you that we see about Malik in this story?
Great question. I mean, the first thing that was important to me was really to find a connectivity in the through line with me and Nikyatu, how she wanted to see the character played. I think it's really important to harness these stories and harness these characters, but then become an iteration of what the filmmaker sees. And Nikyatu knows how much I'm a fan of her, I'm a fan of her work. So the first thing was to have a conversation about, where do we see this guy going? Who is he to you? You know, what kind of story are we wanting to tell? And then on the page, the things that stood out to me was that he's a man. You know, I think in a lot of times, and Nikyatu and I talked about this as well, we want to set a foundation of showing exemplary madness in film, exemplary madness in Black men in the community, in a way that I think is real. He's a good man. He's a solid man. He's trying to take care of his son. He's trying to be a better person for himself, for his family, for his friends. So watching that journey of just someone kind of going up the ladder was important to me. So a foundation of dignity was really where I started, was to make sure that I always represented him, but many men throughout the process, in trying to be a good man and trying to figure it out. You know, he carries a lot of weight. He puts a lot of things on his shoulders, but at the end of the day, when he's interacting with people, he masks that in a way that just allows him to have his moments to soothe it, to fix it, and then keep going. Because I think that's something that's important. That's something that men do. The biggest thing was just to make sure that, as an example, for the men that kind of set a foundation for me, and then you know, the young men that come after me, is that we see a role model of dignity. So that was the most important thing.
Yep. You know, I love that you said that about dignity. It's one of the things I talk about just in my own personal life, that I think one of the blessings of my life is how many really good men I know, I grew up with, I saw. It is like, this is, Black men that I just, from my dad on down, right? And so what I really do love about the way you play and the way his character is it's not that he's not a superhero. He's a man.
Right.
He's a man. And so I love it. I love the way you played it. And I was like, is Sinqua really acting, or is this just
I know.
That's why I cast him.
He's gonna say this. What would you say? But no, I really, really loved the way you played it with nuance, and just directness. I don't even know another word to say about that.
There's this one quote that I love where it says, "A boy becomes a man when a man is needed." And I think the thing about Malik is that in his circumstances, which we'll come to know as to why he's with his grandmother and the things that he had to overcome, he just had to always kind of grow and mature and man up. And there was no question of why, he just did it. So in each stage of maturation from boyhood to manhood, he just made the choices instinctually that were to be a leader. And so he just moved like that.
Yeah. All right. No, thank you. Thank you for that. I have a question because we don't have enough time with each other.
I'm so sad about that.
Oh, me too. I have a question really about, how you shot it. A lot of the people watching this are, filmmakers, aspiring filmmakers, they're writers. And then am I correct? You shot this during, our pandemic moment?
Stacey, we shot this we wrapped in August. So we started in July. Yeah, we wrapped in August, and it's crazy because we're in competition with films that started, at the top of the pandemic or pre-pandemic, and then got shut down and then started up again and stopped. But we're one of the few films in competition that just started at the peak of the pandemic and went straight through.
Yes.
To post. So we made it in by the skin of our teeth. The edit was really intense. I haven't had a break from the film. We've gone straight through since we shot.
I think that was my question too, to Anna and to Sinqua, to all three of you. I'm just imagining how that's, COVID is not a character in this film. Thank God it's not. But, I'm just curious about, just what that was like, kind of, as you're talking about, you shot it quickly and having to go through it. What was that like while you were in process?
You can't sneak away from set. That's the biggest thing.
No, you cannot.
We had a day where, I had to go to the gym in the middle of filming, and I swear, Nikyatu,
he brought it up, Stacey, not me. He brought it up,
You
just had to.
Were you do push-ups in the corner and get right in here, don't leave?
No, he ran to a whole boutique gym.
I try to be an economical person, so once I got the address of the location we're filming, I knew we had enough time in between the next time I had to be on set between, the time that I had finished my first setup. I was like, all right, this gym is only 6 minutes away. I'm going to walk there, work out, and then we'll come back in an hour. Not really factoring in the COVID of it all as well. So I'm getting texts and I'm getting phone calls, and it's like, where are you? Where'd you go? And I'm like, I went to the gym 6 minutes away. But it never dawned on me that the reason why everyone was heightened about it was because also the pandemic is imminent. but I had enough time to get my sets in.
I mean, I'll say I had just come from the series that I'm on, and it's a massive budget, and even that project was very threatened by COVID. And we had all the resources, and still it was difficult to get through because filming during a pandemic brings up innumerable challenges. And it's just such a testament to Nikyatu and the people that were attached to this project, their fortitude to get through, and their focus and their drive, because it's not easy. It's not easy shooting during a pandemic, and every single day is so fragile. If somebody tests positive, we're already on a super tight schedule. So, I mean, correct me if you don't feel like this, Nikyatu, but a lot of it too is luck, right? I think this film, just by the grace of God, was just supposed to get made because it's so fragile. If just one person, we don't have
I agree.
So Yeah.
It's I can attest, we macro shot something during this, and it's stressful beyond stressful.
Yeah.
Beyond stressful. A couple of just final thoughts, questions about it. I just want to know, like, what we want. Again, there are people that have seen the film by the time this panel airs, and then there are others who will be like queued up to see it. So I just want to, kind of get from all of you just the underlying. Well, no, I guess I do have another question I want to ask before that. Supernatural horror film. When I saw that, and I don't do horror films, so I was like, I don't know if I want to do this panel. I can't watch it. But I'm curious about if that's the way it feels to the three of you. Is that descriptor correct?
I've been calling it a psychological.
Go ahead, Anna.
Really? No, you go.
No. I'm thinking of one moment on set, and I only say this because inside the ladies will know this, where we had to be in the room, Anna and I had to be in the room together. And I put the heavy lifting on Anna because of the supernatural looming that was around us. I made the executive decision. I didn't need to be a part of it.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
Something jumped off the page. All right.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate description for sure. I hadn't heard it described like that yet, I guess. I mean, we're so early in talking about it, but for Aisha, it's just her keeping her head down and focused and getting her son here. And so that was my goal, and everything else that happened was just a massive and terrifying obstacle to that. But yeah, I would say that that's an accurate description.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree, Anna. I think it's if I'm being honest, because I know sometimes with horror audiences, they're like, this was not I didn't get the jump scares that I wanted. I didn't get this. And I would consider this, my inspirations are much more international. So horror films outside of America really influence this process. And it's a character study with supernatural horror elements, if I'm being honest, And so I do think in that sense, we're being honest about what this film is.
Yes. I love that, because I think you're touching on what I felt as a viewer, that I felt like there's a whole thing in there about motherhood and family and ancestry, and like kind of that bond that when I hear supernatural horror, I don't get that from that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'm reacting to. And like I said, I just watched it. So
that's good, because
I'll calm down and then I can think about it.
Yeah, Stacey, that's good. I think that particularly for Black women who are part of my target, a big part of my target audience, they may see this as something that feels reflective of the themes that they're navigating, and not so much as a horror. Like Casey Lemon's Eve's Bayou is considered a horror in the canon. And it's one of the films that really influenced my trajectory as a filmmaker. I have a lot of reverence for Casey Lemons and the ways that she used Black womanhood and girlhood to speak about folklore. That's really important to me.
Yeah, no, I totally can see that. All right, and my question about really like the underlying message of this film. What do you want people to walk away from it? What's that conversation that's happening when there used to be movie theaters, and when you would talk to people in the lobby of the theater after? What is that, cab ride, car ride, Uber ride home? What is that convo?
I'm going to let my actors respond to that question. No, there's so many things that I tried to say, but it's always interesting to hear what people extract from the process.
Oof. I'm going to think about that. I think for me, again, this was, I've said this a few times, it was a love letter to my mother. And Nikyatu said this about her own mother too with this film. And to these women that have to work these jobs, and the ego they set aside to do that for their families, for their children. And so that was my, that was the thing I held on to for Aisha and for her in this film. But there's so many, like Nikyatu said, it's a character horror. I don't know how you said it exactly, but it is very character driven too. And so for me, I'm always looking at the dynamics between the characters. And I think that Michelle Monaghan, who plays Amy, and I should have a very interesting thing going on. And I think that can open up a lot of conversations. And Sinqua is so freaking charming and gorgeous and like the man of everyone's dreams in this film. And what he does for Aisha and what that happens there is so fun to talk about too. So for me, I would love if people came from this also exploring the dynamics between the characters, because I think there's so much there.
Yeah.
But also it is an entertaining, suspenseful, incredible, like there's so much to talk about. It's so layered as Nikyatu created, you know, so.
Yeah, same. I think, like you said before, Stacey, I wish that we could have the conversation with everyone that has already watched it, so we could really talk about the moments that I really would want to hear people discussing in the auditorium after they left the theater. Yeah. But I think the biggest thing, like the ladies have touched on, is just the idea of strength that I see as Nikyatu talked about her mom, as Anna talked about her mom, and getting to meet Anna's mom, and then also the idea of what Aisha's going through and just how much strength she carries throughout the film, you know. And I'm really big on the fact that I think our stories have to show us elevating and show the strength that we have. And there's nothing stronger, being raised by a single Black mom, there's nothing stronger than a single Black mom's love and how hard she'll go for her children and how hard she'll work and how hard she'll put herself aside. And we really see that in what Aisha's trying to accomplish. So I hope people walk away with that more than anything.
I love it. Well, there will be so many conversations that will happen around this. Again, congratulations to all of you. Nikyatu, congratulations. This is such a beautiful.
Thank you, Stacey.
Sinqua, Anna, thank you so much for everything. Nikyatu, tell the people when they can see your film. At this
Lord, when can they? Saturday is our premiere, January 22nd at 1:45 p.m. online. Sundance just shifted all virtually. So our first two screenings are published online on the Sundance website in the U.S. dramatic competition. Very important to know that we are in competition. And the rest of the screenings will be published soon. But the first two are the 22nd and the 24th. So if you check the website, those times are published.
All right, fantastic. And we'll have those dates on our site as well. Thank you again, everyone. This is Nanny.
Thank you.
Yes.